let's hear it for the Queen of the Gypsies.
Great, great honor. I'm a gypsy at heart, and I'll always be one, so they can't change that name for me. I think most dancers feel that way. They'd like to be the carriage because the horse just pulls it. It just keeps pulling something. And, why did I say that? Jack Cole taught me how to make all these images, and I blame him for getting lost. But
you were asked to go, she was in the chorus, and
she
was asked to visit Gwen Verdon in her dressing room.
Well, actually, they were looking for her understudy, and I got the guts up to go out there and audition. I was in the show at the time. Michael Kidd choreographed it, and she was just extraordinary. I lived in the wings of every show I ever did, and I learned so much that way. But she called me into her room, and that was the time when you didn't cross that threshold unless somebody asked you to. You just didn't walk in and say, "Hi, Gwen, how you doing?" And so I went, and I remember clearly her saying to me, "Chita, you know, you should be brave enough to go out and look for parts that you can create yourself." And I looked at her, and I suddenly realized she was giving me courage. She was making me go out and find out who I am. And she was giving me an awful lot of fantastic courage. And right shortly after that, I did get a part in something, I can't remember, it might have been Guys and Dolls or something. And Dick Van Dyke was, and still is, one of the funniest and kindest, giving people, you know, in the theater. He's 92, I guess, or something like that, and he's still going. Still going. Do you notice how I just sort of sat out? I think we always talk to ourselves, don't we? Sit up, sit up. I'm crazy. Don't lose your sense of humor. That's what I tell you. For God's sake. Well, it was from Cy, and Cy said, Chita, there are a couple of cyclones. I know all these people. That's what's so amazing. It's so wonderful just to know that you know them. So he calls and he said, there are a couple of people on the other end that would like to speak with you. And I said, well, put them on. And on the other end were Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon. And so that's when you decide to take that phone call. That one you take. And so they asked me if I would take the original company of Sweet Charity out on the road, and which would make it the national company. With Ben Vereen, and Thelma Oliver, and Helen Gallagher, and the greatest chorus of dancers that you could ever pray to work with. And so we just, you know, we got out there, and I don't know, that was one of the great phone calls that I got. Yeah.
But then you got to do the film version of Sweet Charity.
Oh, well, yeah, we ended up in Canada, and Bobby called me again and said, would you like to come out and do the part of that Helen was doing, Nikki, and I got a little nervous, and I said, yeah, absolutely. So the cherry on the top was that it was a wonderful experience to do the entire show for almost a year. And then the cherry was my old buddy Shirley MacLaine, who did the part of Charity. So that's pretty good.
She was very generous to you on the set.
Well, she was fabulous. And we were terrible about Shirley in classes, because we used to, she always had this great sense of humor, and we always made fun of her. In front of her face. So Shirley just was, we were filming something and we had to run up this rooftop, turn on a dime, spread our arms and run down the ramp, hit Alice Khan, just split Alice but the lineup was, Shirley was in the front, less travel that way, and then myself, and then Paula Kelly, who's extraordinary, she had the furthest to travel. And I always loved to dance with the boys anyhow, because they had the guts and the power, and so I always loved, but I couldn't travel like that. But Paula hit that air, and it was just amazing. And he said, so he pulled us aside and said, girls, you have to do the very best these takes, because we're going to take Shirley's, which is exactly what they should do. So we hit the first couple of times. It was all right. And the third time he said, okay, that's a take. And I went, damn. Because I knew I wanted to travel just a tad bit further. It would fulfill my space. Because I knew Paula was flying. Well, I had her out of the corner of my eye. That's what being in the chorus does. You can see 360 degrees. And so Shirley said, what's wrong? He said, that's a take. And Shirley said, well, what's wrong, Chita? And I said, it just wasn't right. It just wasn't. So she said to Bobby, can we just take that again? I'd feel better if we took it. And that's a dancer for you. Mm-hmm. So it was great. It was great.
I love that story. It's a great story.
Of course, this is fantastic. And I said, and we've always wanted to play girlfriends. Always wanted to play girlfriends. And there was this deadly silence. And Freddie, I think, said, well, gee, it's not girlfriends. Oh, okay. Well, what is it? It's mother and daughter. I said, well, who plays the mother? Keep your sense of humor. And it was great. I mean, every once in a while, I find myself standing in front of Liza, who was extraordinary to work with, and realizing I was playing her mother, because I had met her mother, and that was quite an experience, and I had done her television show, and like I said before, make sure you're there. Don't miss those moments.
Beautiful. Well, now this that it had life-threatening things happen to that.
Right.
What got you through that ordeal and the healing process?
Well, I think my mom and my family, are unit, and I think I know my teachers. I know that Ms. Jones, the way she taught us, and though our teachers at New York City at the American School of Ballet, I know that they're responsible, because I clearly remember going into the emergency, and you're kind of like in shock, and the X-ray came in and said, oh, how nice to meet you. Oh, really? And she goes, and then she goes in and she takes a picture. And then she comes out and she says, wow, you really did yourself. You did a good job on yourself. And then she told me, and I clearly remember shifting gears, just saying, I did say, oh, shit. I did say, shit. I may not have said that. But I remember the climate of my mind totally changed. And I felt like a car. I felt like I just shifted gears. And so what's next? And when Gary Christ, the wonderful Gary Christ, who's a great friend of mine and a beautiful dancer, when he told me, oh, it's going to be different, Chita, I said, no, it's not. Then I realized life lessons that every single day, and I tell this to the kids, you were different. and the style just changes, you accept it for what it is, and you just keep going. And I don't think I could have kept going without my teachers.
That stage is a few months later, so we all saw you New Year's Eve.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. It's wild lying in bed and feeling your body find its mend itself. It's the most amazing thing.
You won your second Tony Award as Aurora in another John Kander, Fred, and Terrence McNally musical, Kiss of a...
One of the things I loved so much was when you did that tango with Antonio and you got down the center stage and you did that high kick and he caught it and you were standing in a split. I said, you would be able to do that too if you were standing. Absolutely. Don't think you can do anything alone. Antonio was so extraordinary in that show. He was phenomenal. And Raul Julia was brilliant. I saw the show. I thought it was extraordinary originally. I just loved it. I loved what Tommy created, Tommy Tune. And of course, Raul was just Raul. I could have done that split with Raul. But Antonio, this was the lover that we've seen on screen, and he was so down to earth and so beautiful. I tell my audiences sometimes, everything that you've dreamt about Antonio, it's true. He was great to work with, and he sang, he never missed a show, and we know he's a wonderful actor. But it wasn't bad looking at that.
You then received your 9th Tony nomination for Chita Rivera, The Dancer's Life.
Oh, please. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. I remember telling him, because when he won, it was the inauguration, and he and Michelle, his wife, were dancing. And it was the way he danced. He held her hand behind him, and he had a little bop. Just a tiny bop. So elegant, so chic. And I went, we did that bop in school. I know that bop. So I didn't know that I would ever meet him. So when I met him, told him, I said, the two of you just looked so great, and I know that bop that you did. And Michelle heard it, and she said, yeah, and that's the only step he's got. It's only she can say. And that is not the only bop he's got. But to be in the same room, I was so honored and done. After a certain point, you just have to say thank you, God. I guess I'm in the right place at the right time. You can't explain these things. It could be anyone, but you were chosen. But what a joy. And I'm from D.C., and my dad, before he died, used to pile us all in a car and take us down. We'd run around the monument. And but my brother and I looked out, and it was, the memories were just extraordinary. We kind of wished that Mother and Dad had been there. But they were. You don't deny yourself. You stay. You keep the right company. You listen to your teachers. You stay in that circle. Even if you have to go off and do something else for a minute, you come back to it if your heart is really in it, and stay on the positive side. Don't go to that negative side. Just stay as positive as you can. But you gotta keep, when that door opens or you ring that doorbell, or somebody rings your bell, you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. That's the truth.
So honored to be sitting here with you. flowers now.
Forget about it. And that's a life lesson that I've learned. And sometimes shit happens, you just have to give it a try.